Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Monday, and all of our guests today, including Harman Dayal, standing by, sponsored by Basant Motors. Whether you're in need of a new automobile or parts or service for your current vehicle, Basant Motors is here to assist you with any of your automotive needs. You can tell Ryan just wrote this moments ago. Stop by their dealership located at 16315 Fraser Highway in Surrey, or check them out online at Basant Motors, BASANT Motors.com. Canucks with 65 points after 60 games this year. They had 82 after 60 last year. Wow. 17 more points.
What a great year last year was.
It really was. Not so much this year.
Seems like 10 years away.
Here to brighten things up from The Athletic. He covers the Canucks on a regular basis. Harman Dayal. Harm, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you? Where is it? There it is.
How are you guys?
Okay. I thought for a second you didn't have your karaoke mic. Perfect.
Perfect.
Wow. Okay. Hey, let's start there, Harm. Not with the karaoke mic, but it's the first time we've had you on in a while. The difference between this year's team, I know there's personnel changes, and last year's team.
It's been massive. I mean, to see this team struggle offensively to this extent, since January 1st, they're 32nd in the league for goals scored per game. I mean, who would have imagined that they'd struggle to manufacture offense to this extent? Their defensive play has also slipped as of late. They've been hammered by injuries in the first half. The locker room dysfunction and all the turmoil leading to the JT Miller trade. And I mean, the biggest mystery in all of this is Elias Pettersson. He's been a ghost. He's been invisible offensively for most of this season. He might not crack 50 to 55 points this season. I mean, who had that on their bingo card heading into this year? I mean, Thatcher Demko's unfortunately been hampered by injuries. It's just been it's as if everything went right for them that could have gone right last season, and everything that could have gone wrong for them this season has gone wrong.
Harm, there are analytics, there are traditional stats, but when it comes to Elias Pettersson, who you just talked about, what are you seeing on the ice?
I'm seeing a player that's completely lost his swagger, that's completely lost his confidence across. It's not just one skill set where he looks less effective, right? It'd be one thing if it's just a shot. That doesn't seem right. But it's his reluctance to shoot and that lack of killer instinct. It's the fact that when he does shoot, NHL Edge data shows that his shot velocity is down significantly compared to where it was 2 years ago. His skating looks slower than it was 2 years ago, which has completely hindered his ability to attack off the rush. And then it's not just the skating. It's also the fact that this is a player that I was watching the tape back on every point he scored 2 years ago. The number of times that he was able to create space for himself in dangerous offensive positions because of his ability to deke and beat defenders that way. Like, how many times have we seen him actually ambitiously, creatively take defenders on and create space for himself? So that part of his game is gone as well. We're seeing him double clutch all the time on the power play. It's maybe the biggest mystery in the NHL right now of how did this guy, who was an elite performer in the NHL, not just, it'd be one thing if there was like a 20-point drop-off, if he went from being a 90 to 100-point guy to, all right, we're talking about a 70-ish point guy, but this is, I don't know if I've ever really seen something like this outside of Jonathan Huberdeau in Calgary when he first moved there, but those are completely different circumstances where there was a team change involved there. Huberdeau was much older as well. This is completely baffling as far as why Elias Pettersson's offensive production has completely fallen off a cliff.
Harm, look ahead to the trade deadline. It's the million-dollar question: buy or sell. What do you do with Besser? Just so many things at play this week.
Yeah, to me, it should be a mix, like a hybrid mode of selling and buying. I don't think you can really categorize them as strong sellers or strong buyers. And really starting with the Brock Besser decision, I like the player, but if you're exploring an extension, it has to be at the right price. And the worry that I have is Brock Besser scored 40 goals last year. I really think that might be an outlier as far as his production moving forward, especially now that in JT Miller, the centerman that he had the most chemistry with, he's gone. So moving forward, I think Brock's probably closer to a 25 to 30 goal guy, which, look, is still a valuable player. It's not as if this team is overflowing with top 6 scoring wingers, but it has to be the right price, right? So if it's, let's say, $8 million times 7 years or $8 million times 8 years, I wouldn't sign that deal if I'm the Vancouver Canucks. If it's something closer to like a 7 times 7, which would represent a significant hometown discount, you don't even know if Brock's camp is going to agree to that, then fine. Like if it's a steep discount, you explore that if you're the Canucks, just because you're this star for offense, not only now, but moving forward. And ultimately, to me, the key is if you come to the realization that you can't come to terms with Brock on a reasonable extension, you have to look to move him ahead of the deadline. You can't risk losing him for nothing at the deadline. This idea of keeping him as your own rental, I don't think that's a path this team should be taking. They don't look like they're capable of going on a deep run this postseason. And the other thing to keep in mind is you can sort of have your cake and eat it too. As far as trading Brock doesn't necessarily mean you're giving up on making the playoffs this year. I mean, look at Washington at last year's trade deadline. They sold Anthony Mantha, Evgeny Kuznetsov, and Joel Edmondson, and they still ended up making the playoffs. And for me, Brock doesn't single-handedly make or break this team's playoff chances. He only has 3 points in 10 games since the JT Miller trade. He hasn't found his right fit in the top 9 yet without the centerman that he had the most chemistry with. So I think Brock is too valuable of an asset to where if you can't come to terms with it with an extension, you have to flip him. And the point too, guys, is like I hear some people saying, well, what are the Canucks going to do with picks and prospects? The point isn't about you acquire these picks and prospects and you're building for the future. The point is you acquire these picks and prospects, and then you leverage those assets as trade chips to address roster needs ahead of next season, right? So, for example, this team really needs another high-end top 6 centerman before next season. You need assets to go out and get those types of guys, and that's where Brock is a valuable trade chip that, in my mind, they need to cash in on if they can't extend.
Look at the center ice position. They had Horvat, Miller, and Pettersson. They're down to Pettersson, and he's underachieving. Looking ahead to the future, like you can't go far in this league without 2 good top 6 centers. Like, what are they going to do here? I mean, top 6 centers don't grow on trees. There's nothing in the system. Like, what are they going to do at the center position going forward?
They have to find a solution on the trade or free agent market. And look, that's difficult, right? Because there are a lot of teams that are searching for top 6 centers, and the fact of the matter is when teams draft and develop quality ones, especially ones that are locked up on reasonable contracts, they tend to keep those guys. It's a competitive market, and if anything, that just amplifies that. Okay, if you want to make a pitch, make that big swing for a top 6 center where there's going to be competition. You have to hoard as many assets as possible and make sure that going into the summer, you're stocked to make that big swing type of move. If you're going to pool all, or I shouldn't say all, but a large number of your assets, of your cap flexibility towards addressing one need, it has to be for that top 6 centerman. And again, that in my mind only reinforces the need to cash in on Besser at the deadline if you're not going to extend him.
And Harm, Rick Tocchet, what's more likely, in your opinion, speculating, which we do a lot of on this show, the Canucks letting go of Rick Tocchet or Rick Tocchet saying goodbye? Doesn't have a contract at this point for next year.
It's a good question. I mean, it could be both, right? Could be a mutual type of thing. Clearly, this season hasn't gone as planned, and if you're Rick Tocchet, I can only imagine the frustration of having to deal for most of the season with the drama of Miller and Pettersson. And yeah, those guys are gone now, but can you imagine as a head coach how mentally taxing that is to deal with your 2 best forwards can't get along with each other, and there's a rift here, and this predates Tocchet, so it's not as if this is solely on him, and why couldn't he find a solution? I can't imagine that that was a fun scenario to sort of deal with. And Tocchet, given the success he had with the Canucks, last year, he is going to be highly sought after. There's a reason he was named an assistant coach for Team Canada at the Four Nations. He's going to have options, but also from the Canucks perspective, they're going to have to make a decision as well about, is he the right fit for this group moving forward, given the team's lack of offensive struggles. Me personally, I don't think he's the primary reason that the team's underperformed this season. I don't think a coaching change would magically fix this team. I think this core group of players has already had 3 head coaches, and I don't think it's, the fourth one's going to be the one to unlock the most out of them. But it could easily become a thing where you reach the summer and both sides just sort of look at it and go, it was a decent run together, but it might be in both parties' best interest to move on potentially.
All right, 1992, Blind Melon, No Rain. Go. Give us some karaoke.
Oh,
No chance. You guys got to give me stuff from 2010 onwards.
Well, I don't know any of that
geez.
stuff, so it's not gonna happen. Rick's stuck in the 80s.
I'm in the 80s.
Yeah.
80s best music ever.
Compromise, early 2000s.
No.
Next time, I'm holding you to that. All right, I'm going to do some research and we'll figure something out.
Deal.
Yeah, Harm, thanks for this, my friend. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Good to have you back.